Individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean, right now to learn more.
800-281-6030. 800-281-6030. 800-281-6030. That's 800-281-6030.
You say you never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, let's get back to the show.
Yes. It's about time.
It's the Dan Sileo Show. AM 820 The Big 8. Here's Dan Sileo.
10:31 here on the Big 8, and I will tell you this. Now, I want to be as transparent as possible when we interview these Hall of Fame guys. I'm going to talk with Howard Balzer a little bit later on in the day, but these men don't know the votes and the vote totals. So when they cast their vote, they don't know. And by the way, this leaking out like this, obviously there's a flaw in the process there as well. Because now you're putting guys like Jared Bell, Jason Cole. And by the way, I don't know how Jason voted here. I can only imagine knowing him for all the years. Okay, and we're going to bring him up here in a second, but I want people to understand, these guys don't know the vote totals and how it played out, okay? They were in the room, though. So without further ado, let's bring our longtime friend on, one of the 50 Hall of Fame voters that was in the process. They're watching this, and let's bring him up here, Jason Cole. And Jace, I'm just going to give you the opportunity here. I mean, just your takeaways on what you've been listening to the last 24 hours here.
I don't know what to tell you at this point. I mean, I understand why 3, 4, 5 people would have voted against Belichick. I can understand that. 11, at least 11 people didn't vote for Belichick. At least out of the 50 of us. And that's where I look and go, yeah, wait a sec. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, if you count the 5 guys who were on the ballot that Belichick was part of, and that was the three senior candidates, Bob Kraft and him, and you count the 15 guys who were on the modern era, Belichick's the most qualified of all 20.
Right.
He's more qualified than Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald. He's more qualified than Bob Kraft, who I think all deserve to get in the Hall of Fame, and who I voted for all of those guys. And I voted for Belichick. And I understand the cheating. I understand, some perceptions of, maybe he wasn't that great a coach, because of his time without Brady, which is a silly thing to argue. Maybe some people thought he's going to come back sooner. I don't think that's happening. He hasn't made it back, and he hasn't even had really an interview. Well, I take that back. He had the Atlanta interview last year. I mean, you can ding him for North Carolina. That's silly. Man, the man has 8 rings and 12 Super Bowl appearances. Basically over the last 50 years, the road to the Super Bowl goes through Bill Belichick. What are we doing here? Like, what? Deflategate, Spygate. Seriously, like I can name I can name 5, 6 coaches in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who I know cheated. Okay, Al Davis is dead and he's still cheating. Okay, I mean, like like I, again, I likened it to this. I thought about when Jeff Kent earlier this, or in December, got into the Hall of Fame. And a lot of people didn't like really pay attention to that because he got in through this committee process because he had passed through. The other guys who were on that process in that ballot included Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, and Gary Sheffield, right?
Yep.
And Jeff Kent was picked over all those guys. All right. And furthermore, those guys didn't get enough support to come back for the following year. And that group of people who were voting on it was people who are inside the game. Those are 16 panelists. They're all executives, former players. They're, people who played or worked in baseball, not media. Those people wouldn't let cheaters in. So what I'm telling you is people who are in the game take this even more seriously than the media. So a lot of the people who say, "Oh, the media is being petty about Deflategate and their Spygate and all that other stuff," trust me, the guys who are more learned in the game, people like you who played, take that more seriously than we do.
Yeah. Well, and Jace, I have to ask you because you've told me this before. You told me that, politically, when you're voting, you're not supposed to have that mentality where you take outside things
Well,
but
we're
come on
human
here.
beings. We're human beings. And again, I can't. Look. I voted for him.
But you can't put that aside and say, because there's no other reason other than the fact that there was some ideology or whatever thinking process that you had. And there's 11 of those men that are and by the way, you know how much I
Well, it's
respect all you guys.
men and women. There are women
Men
voters too.
and women that are in that room that are caretakers of my sport, our sport. And I respect you guys so much. This is clearly, 334 victories. You and I don't even have to go down the resume. How did it land here? It's not an indictment on Bill.
Look, I told you there's 3 or 4 people I know who I understand, and I'm not going to say who they are,
Of course.
but they've expressed their displeasure with him, and I expected 3 or 4. Again, I wasn't expecting it was ever going to be unanimous, but that's where I go 11. What? And I have no idea why those other people, because to be quite frank, most of them didn't speak. They didn't express their displeasure about why they would or would not vote for the man. They don't have to. But it would be nice if they would. But that's this process, and that's okay. I live with it. Look, I follow whatever the Pro Football Hall of Fame lays out for me. I'm simply the conduit to the caretaker of the rules that they lay out. I have problems with the rules. Again, some of this with Belichick is it's a numbers game, and it's a tough numbers game because you only get 50 voters. We only get 3 apiece. There's 5 guys on the ballot. That only leaves 150. Guys have to get 40 or more to get in. I'll be surprised if more than one guy gets in. And I really believed in this group, as much as I favor players over coaches and contributors, and I don't like the fact that they're mixed together, but I thought this was a year that was clear that Kraft and Belichick were clearly the best 2 in this group and deserved to go in together. Now, Kraft may get in and Belichick doesn't. I have no idea, but maybe people hold the same arguments that they hold against Belichick against Kraft. I have no idea. I don't.
Jason Cole, one of the 50 Hall of Fame voters, here with us here on 820 here, giving us the inside. Do you believe that Bill Polian was a dissenter? Do you think he was one of the people that, because again, he has made it very public and his disdain for Belichick. Again, maybe that. And by the way, I don't really hold that against him because we're all competitive. I understand. He was competitive with the Bills. He was competitive with them with the Colts, but he was a large and loud dissenter. Now he's kind of backwalking it a little bit and saying, I don't remember if I voted for him or not. I mean, Jason, if you can't remember you didn't vote for the guy, maybe you shouldn't be qualified to vote for the guy.
I like Bill Pauling a lot. He's a good man.
Okay. Okay. All right, Jace. Then do you think again?
I'm not allowed to talk about
Okay.
the process. I'm not allowed to talk about what happens in the room. I'm not in any way, shape, or form. I respect Bill Pauling tremendously. The man has forgotten more about football than I've ever learned, and I've done this for 34 years. All right. So, I mean, you know, I'll leave it to other people to question what Bill did or didn't do. Bill's Bill's a big boy. He can stand up for himself. And he's a Hall of Famer. He deserves to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know exactly how he voted. I don't know how anybody voted other than myself. And I'll tell you how I voted, and I will tell you my perceptions, my general perceptions of the room. But I'm never going to talk about any certain person specifically. It's not fair to them.
Do you believe that what you're seeing with the backlash now, because Jared Bell came out too and he goes, let me tell you something here. For the 11 guys to come out and make comments like that, it should be transparent on how you voted. Do you believe that you should see some transparency on how this thing played out? Or do you think that's unfair that, again, all of a sudden now, because as you said, you don't want to sit there and talk about another voter's opinion on another guy. And I respect that too, because you're right. You're in the room for a reason because of your integrity and what you look at and how you see the game. But do you think there should be transparency when it comes to how you guys vote on all these players?
I'm willing to live with whatever the rules are. I don't have a problem with it. I would rather not have the discussions made public because the discussions can get, you're talking about great people and you're talking about,
relationships that you've built over the years with
right.
these
Yeah.
guys.
Right. And you want to be as raw and out there as you possibly can be. I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of having my vote put out there. If they want to do that, that's fine. I'll tell you right now, the three people I voted for, because I was required to vote for three in that process, I voted for Belichick, Kraft, and Roger Craig. So I'll tell you right now, that's what I did. Okay. But I'm not going to speak for other people. I'll follow the rules however they are. I think the bigger problem is the math problem that you and I have discussed a lot, which is keeping a lot of candidates out. And frankly, that's a discussion I hope to have with Jim Porter, the president of the Hall of Fame, in the next, few weeks or months, and talk about, hey, there's maybe a different system so that we make sure that we get the guys who are qualified in, and that we don't lose certain candidates, especially in the modern era, and maybe, not put players up against coaches and contributors this way. um, find a slightly different system for it. If that includes what you're talking about, which is making the votes public, I'm not afraid of that. But everybody's got to understand when you can criticize my vote all you want. There are probably some people out there who just heard what I said and said, "Oh, you didn't vote for LC Greenwood, you didn't vote for Ken Anderson," and they'll want to rip me apart, which is fine. Okay, have at it. Okay. But the reply I always have to them is, I'm going to hand you a piece of paper with those names on it. You tell me who you're going to vote for, and let's have a discussion about which ones you didn't vote for, right? And how screwed up you are in your decision making. Okay, all right, because that's how this works.
It does work that way.
Yeah.
My daughter always told me that, hey, if you have an opinion, be prepared to have that opinion challenged. So
that's absolutely true, and that's fine. Like, I don't, I'm only right, 99% of the
time. Jason Cole here with us from Fansided. He's here with us here, one of the 50 Hall of Fame voters here, giving us the explanation here. Do you think that there'll be a change because now it's bringing into light here the process that you've been talking about and the math that you're talking about, Jace.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't make sense to try to, because now with the math being the way it is, Jason, there's going to be a backlog of coaches, contributors, players now with this math. Do you think that the Hall of Fame will take a look at this now? Because I heard they called Belichick last week. Now I'm just getting from reports from folks that saying that they called him to inform him that he didn't make it. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
tell me. I mean, you
I
tell me
think
if
that
you
there's
think
going to be
change.
look, they've changed the system 3 or 4 times in the 14 years I've done this. So they make tweaks to it all the time, try and figure it out. They've had, and including things like doing that blue ribbon committee, which did like they've come up with all sorts of ideas, right? Some I agree with, some I don't, like whatever, let's, I don't run the Hall of Fame. Okay. I just administer the rules as they tell me how to do it. I frankly don't like the current system because I think that at most we're going to get 3 out of 15 guys in the modern era class in. I think we're only going to get 1 in the senior coach contributor side in. And frankly, that's not enough guys for who was on the ballot. So I think that it needs to be rethought. Is that a ranked choice voting pattern, which I know most people are not familiar with, but there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Change the percentages for what it is. Maybe make it instead of 80%, you make it at 75. I don't know what the ultimate answer is. I do know that there is a feeling or belief within the Hall of Fame among Hall of Famers themselves that this needs to be one of the highest honors, needs to be very exclusive, and that in 2020, 2021, that was watered, in their view, watered down because of things that they did. I think that this is an overreaction to what happened in 2020 and 2021 for a bunch of different reasons. We can go through it, but it's a long and kind of boring story. I think we've arrived here, and it's unfortunate. Um, I don't think Belichick's candidacy necessarily has a lot to do with the math. I think it has to do with him and his resume, which still disappoints me. But if that leads to changing the way we do this, I'm all for it.
2 last questions for Jason Cole here on 820. Jace, are you see, I don't believe, because I had a lot of my former friends who played in the league say that, we should have more players on that voting panel. I said, no, 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 no. We'd be voting for our buddies. We'd be voting for our buddies.
That's what they do. That's what
And
they do.
we would be voting for our buddies here. So there's got to be
It's all about the you, baby. It's all about the you.
I'm there with
Reggie
you, man.
Wayne would have been
Reggie
in first
Wayne would have
ballot.
been in. Reggie Wayne would have been in 3 years ago. I mean, if that were me there, so no doubt. Do you like the mix? Because I know Coach Dungy, who I have tremendous respect for, Bill Polian's on it. Obviously, sports writers on it. Do you like the mix of right now? Again, not naming names, but I'm talking.
Well, I mean, the names are on the Hall of Fame site. You can see who the selectors are.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's mostly media people. It's a good sprinkling of Hall of Famers. Dungy, Polian, Dan Fouts is on there. James Lofton's on there. People who are both in the media and and played. I like that. I think that the people who are in this work really hard to do it right. And as long as people work hard to really do it right, then I have no complaint with it. But every time let me just say this: every time everybody says, "Oh, there should be players vote," okay, players have their own bias. If every time,
bet I do.
And let me tell you this: if the people who say only Hall of Famers should vote, let me tell you this right now: if only the Hall of Famers voted. Guess how many people? Nobody's getting in. Nobody's getting in because all of those dudes say that dude's not as good as me. Why are we putting him in?
That's right.
It would be more exclusive than ever before. And so, whoever you pick, I get that there's bias. It's a human activity. As long as it's a human activity, there's going to be bias and there's going to be complaints. I hear, there's got to be younger voters. Younger voters don't know, never saw Roger Craig play. They never saw Elsie Greenwood play. They never saw some of the guys who were even on the list. And that's not to say that somebody who's young couldn't do the homework and find out about them. But there's a breadth of knowledge that goes with it. Are there some guys on there who might be a little bit too old and not really thinking straight? There's something to that. So it's always a mix. All I care about is you get 50 people on there, 50 men and women on there who work hard at this and are trying to do the best job that they possibly can. And I think that happened this year. I know people worked really hard at it. And we ended up with a result that is going to get second guessed and going to be wildly debated. And that's a fine. We're going to live. I mean, the world will go on without Belichick in the Hall of Fame. I'm just letting you know that. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, it's shocking as it is. And I'm very confident Bill will get in the Hall of Fame one day and deserves it. Maybe it's next year. And our complaints will eventually fade. It's like any of the people who were about T.O. It's like, oh, he didn't make it his first or second year. Dude's in the Hall of Fame. You got nothing to cry about. Stop crying. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're there. You're good. Okay? It'll happen. This will all be rectified. Is it a little silly? Yes. In the moment, it's a little bit silly.
Finally, just for transparency with you and I here in our audience, can you tell me how you landed on Bill Belichick being a Hall of Famer and that you did, and your vote is you did vote for him?
8 rings. 12 appearances. In the last 50 years, since this man got into the Hall of Fame and got into pro football, his first job at the Denver Broncos, the road to the Super Bowl largely goes through Bill Belichick. Okay? That's it. Whether he was a defensive coordinator with the New York Giants with some of the greatest defenses of all time, or whether what he did in putting together the New England Patriots and winning 6 titles in the salary cap era, going to 9 Super Bowls, all the things that he did. Like that's what this is about. You can take all the other things and the win total, all that kind of stuff. That's all gravy to me. 8 rings, baby. He is by far the most qualified candidate on this list. It's a joke.
Absolutely awesome stuff, Jason. And I tell people this too, with all the things that you just laid out and all the things that you bring up. I mean, I just can't say it's not a coincidence. He coached Lawrence Taylor and Brady. I mean, I get it. You might say, well, that was just luck, but all the things he accomplished, you put them all together, they're not luck. It's circumstances that were created that he made when he was there.
Well,
Who knows how great LT would have been?
Let me put it to you this way. I know people rip him for what happened in Cleveland. I always come back to understand who the owner was. The owner,
Art Modell.
Art Modell didn't know what he was doing, moved the team, the whole thing. Terrible owner. When you put Bill Belichick with a good or great owner, the Maras or Robert Kraft, and you put him with either a great head coach, quarterback, Bill Parcells, Tom Brady, and you allowed him to do his work and to follow his system and forget personality, because Bill's not warm and fuzzy. We all know that. I mean, he's just not. Okay. He's pretty good, evidently, with getting to know women. That's a different skill set. But
he can recruit.
The man can recruit. The man can recruit.
Gets a salute.
Yeah.
I like it.
But when you allow him to do what he does, magic happens at the highest level in the history of the game. Again, and that's why I said in the meeting, and I'll tell you, I said this in the meeting, whether they like it or not, Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick should go in together.
Agreed.
Okay, because this is the teamwork that goes into it. It's just like with the Beatles. You don't get the Beatles and the harmonizing without the work of those four individuals putting together, and you get magic. And pick any group, if you like the Stones, the Zeppelin, or whatever you want. Whatever you want to pick. Magic happens when you get groups of people together who do incredible things at this level. That's Belichick did his part like no one else, and to me, that's Hall of Fame.
Well, you're a Hall of Fame guy, and you're a Hall of Fame man, and you're a Hall of Fame friend to me. And
Salute.
I just love you, man.
Salute.
I love the salute, dude. I mean, I'm telling you there. Jason Cole, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Anytime, dude. We'll see you later.
You got it. Jason Cole, one of the 50 voters for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We really appreciated him coming aboard with us there and giving us the insight. We will take a timeout. We'll reflect back a little bit on what Jason Cole, one of the 50 voters, just said. He voted for him to be in the Hall of Fame. Process is flawed, my friends. How is that guy not a Pro Football Hall of Famer? We'll hit on that next. Keep it right here on 820.